The rain had been falling since dawn, thin as mist but cold enough to cut through bone. Emma Walker trudged through the muddy road with her torn shoes squelching, her dress sticking to her legs. Every step felt heavier than the last. She had nowhere to go, not anymore. Her father's small cabin had burned down 2 nights ago. And the only family she had left, a cruel uncle, had thrown her out, calling her useless baggage when she'd begged him for help. The world had shown her no kindness. She believed she wasn't worth it. Her hair was damp, her hands trembling as she hugged herself against the biting wind. Then, out of the foggy silence, came the sound of hooves. Slow, strong, steady. She turned, expecting maybe a trader or a sheriff. Instead, she saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, sitting high on a dark bay horse. His hat was pulled low, his coat dripping wet, his gaze sharp as the edge of dawn. The stranger pulled his horse to a stop a few feet away. For a moment, neither spoke, just the soft snort of the horse and the rhythm of rain between them. "You lost, miss." His voice was deep and calm, like a river that had seen storms and learned not to fear them. Emma looked down, ashamed of her ragged state. "No. I just don't have anywhere to be." He studied her for a long moment, eyes full of something she hadn't seen in months, kindness. "Then you do now," he said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "You'll freeze out here. I've got a fire and a dry place a few miles east. Hop on." She shook her head quickly, stepping back. "No, I can't. I don't want to be a burden." He tilted his head, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Darlin', a burden doesn't walk through a storm on her own 2 feet. A fighter does." Her breath caught. No one had ever called her that before. He extended a gloved hand toward her, palm steady, waiting. For a moment, she hesitated. The years of being told she was nothing pressed heavy on her heart. But then, something inside her whispered, maybe he means it. Slowly, she reached out. The cowboy's grip was firm, warm even through the rain. In one smooth motion, he lifted her effortlessly onto the saddle in front of him. She gasped, feeling the strength in his arms, the steady heartbeat against her back. "Hold on," he murmured, and before she could respond, the horse surged forward. The wind whipped her hair, the rain stung her face. But for the first time in forever, she felt safe. The rhythm of the galloping hooves sounded like freedom. When they reached the small ranch tucked beneath a ridge of pines, she could smell smoke and warmth. The cowboy dismounted, helping her down as gently as if she were made of glass. "You can stay here tonight," he said, guiding her toward the small cabin. "I'm Jack Harper. Folks call me the quiet one round here." Emma smiled faintly. "Emma Walker," she whispered. "But no one calls me anything anymore." Jack looked at her then. Really looked, at the fear in her eyes. The exhaustion, the invisible wounds that only life could carve. "Well, I'm Callan, you Emma. And you're welcome here." Inside, the cabin was simple but full of life, a roaring fire, a kettle on the stove, the smell of stew. Jack handed her a blanket and motioned for her to sit by the hearth. She hesitated, and used to kindness. "You don't even know me," she murmured. "Don't need to," Jack replied, pouring 2 cups of coffee. "You looked cold, hungry, and tired. That's enough for me." As she sipped the warm drink, tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. Jack didn't say a word, he just sat beside her, quiet, letting her cry without judgment. The firelight flickered over his face, revealing a man who'd known loss too. Later, when she'd calmed, she asked softly, "Why do you live out here all alone?" Jack's eyes darkened. "Lost someone," he said simply. "My wife. 3 years ago. Since then, I keep to myself." Emma's heart twisted. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "Life's cruel sometimes. But sometimes it gives you another chance. You just gotta be brave enough to take it." The words lingered in her heart like a promise. Over the next few days, she helped around the ranch, cooking, Cleaning, feeding the horses. Jack rarely spoke much, but when he did, his words carried weight. Slowly, the silence between them became comfortable. Filled with small smiles, shared meals, and quiet understanding. One morning, she tried to leave, leaving a note by the door. "Thank you for your kindness, but I can't stay. You deserve better company than me." But as she stepped out, Jack's voice came from behind her. "You think runnin' makes you worthless, Emma?" She froze. He held up the note, eyes steady. "You helped fix the fence. You tamed the mare no one could touch. You make this place feel alive again. How's that worthless?" She felt her throat tighten, her vision blur. "I'm just broken, Jack. People don't fix broken things. They throw them away." Jack stepped closer, his tone rough but gentle. "Not this cowboy." Then, with a slow, careful motion, he reached out and lifted her chin until their eyes met. "You've been told lies your whole life, darlin'. But I see you. You're strong, brave, and full of light. You just forgot." Emma's breath trembled as he gently lifted her again. Just like that first night, onto his horse. The sunrise spilled gold across the valley, the air fresh and sweet. "Where are we going?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Jack smiled softly, swinging up behind her. "To remind you who you are." They rode up the ridge overlooking the endless stretch of prairie, grass swaying, birds calling, mountains painted by morning light. It was breathtaking. Jack leaned close and said, "See that? That's my world. And you're part of it now." Emma turned her head slightly, tears shining in her eyes. "Part of it? You are it," he said quietly. "You're my world." Emma. The words broke something inside her, not in pain, but in healing. She turned, her hands clutching his coat, her face buried against his chest as she finally let go of the years of hurt. For the first time, she felt seen. She felt worthy. And in that moment, the girl who once thought she was nothing became everything. As the wind carried her laughter across the open land, the camera of life seemed to pull back, two figures on a horse, riding toward the light. Because sometimes, it only takes one kind soul to remind another how precious they truly are. The days rolled into weeks, and life on the Harper ranch began to settle into something Emma never imagined she'd find again: peace. Each dawn brought the soft hum of wine through the cottonwoods, the smell of dew and dust, and the quiet rhythm of hooves in the dirt. Jack rose before sunrise, his silhouette strong against the orange light, while Emma stood on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching him like she was seeing strength itself stitched into a man's frame. He taught her how to saddle a horse, how to move slow around a frightened animal, how to listen to the land. But more than that, he was teaching her something deeper: how to trust herself again. One afternoon, the sun hung heavy and hot, and Jack was fixing the corral gate. Emma approached, wiping her brow with the back of her hand. "Need a hand?" she asked. He glanced at her with that familiar half-smile. "Always could use one." She knelt beside him, holding the board steady as he hammered. Their hands brushed once, twice, and both times, it felt like sparks. Not the kind that burned, but the kind that lit something long darkened. "You ever think," she said softly, "that maybe people like us ain't meant for peace?" Jack stopped hammering, looking at her. "What makes you think that?" "Because it never lasts," she whispered. "Every time I think life's giving me a chance, it takes it back. Like I'm cursed." He set the hammer down, dusted his hands, and leaned against the post, studying her face. "Emma, I used to think the same. After my wife died, I swore I'd never smile again. I thought life was done with me. But maybe peace doesn't come when life gets easy. Maybe it comes when we decide to stop running from the hurt." She lowered her gaze. "That's easier for you to say. You're strong." Jack's eyes softened. "Strength ain't never come easy, darlin'. You think I didn't cry? You think I didn't break? I did. Every man does. But I stood back up, not 'cause I'm fearless, but 'cause I figured I still had something worth standin' for. Maybe that's you now. Her breath caught. His words always had a way of reaching into the places she'd tried to hide. Me, she murmured. You saved me that night. I was just some lost girl in the rain. Jack shook his head slowly. No. I didn't save you, Emma. I just gave you a horse to ride. You saved yourself the moment you took my hand. That night, the air was crisp and quiet. The stars stretched wide above the valley, endless and bright. Emma stood outside, wrapped in a blanket, looking up at the sky.